Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Anatomy of a Survivor: Building Resilience, Grit, and Growth After Trauma by Dr. Joyce Mikal-Flynn, EDD, PNP, MSN. Narrated by Nancy Peterson. There are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. Albert Einstein. Foreword. In 2013, 2 homemade bombs detonated near the finish line of the 117th Boston Marathon, an event I have been the race director for 20 years. 3 people died, and hundreds were injured, including 17 who lost limbs. In the next days and months that followed that horrific act of terror, I struggled with exactly how to respond, both personally and professionally. My family was in the crowd near the finish line when the bombs exploded, but fortunately all were unhurt. As race director for the Boston Marathon, an event at the pinnacle of world-class running since 1897, I was uncertain if we would be able to survive and recover. It was a challenging time, a time of doubt, anxiety, depression. A year later, on Patriots' Day 2014, the 118th running of the Boston Marathon became a historic event. More than 36,000 runners competed officially, 9,000 more than the previous year. An estimated 1 million spectators lined the 26.2-mile route, twice the normal number, in an epic celebration of support, pride, courage, and resilience. Today, the Boston Marathon is much more than a running event. It has become a symbol of community, recovery, strength, and pride. I first met Dr. Joyce Mikal-Flynn in the summer of 2013, and have come to admire and respect the work she has done on recovery and resilience. More than that, she has become a friend who has her own remarkable story of personal trauma, recovery, and growth. Dr. Mikal-Flynn helped me process the tragedy and pain of the 2013 bombings as I navigated the 3 phases of recovery she identified: survive, adapt, amaze. We survived. We didn't just recover. We became stronger. We adapted and became safer. We amazed by coming back in 2014 and pulling off one of the most epic marathons of all time. Dr. Mikal-Flynn's guidance and wisdom personally helped me through this process. I owe her a debt of gratitude for her kindness and friendship. Her book will help you in building your personal strength and resilience, as well as finding how to grow in the aftermath of trauma. Stay strong and continue to lead the way. Dave McGilvery, Director of the Boston Marathon. Introduction. Our world, our globe, communities, friends, families, and ourselves as individuals are under enormous stress and trauma these days. A global pandemic, economic dislocation and despair, climate change, and fractured communities. How we address these pressures and hardships may well be the greatest challenges of our time. With the right tools and firm determination, you will not only survive these difficult times, you can and will come through them and thrive, becoming stronger, smarter, and more resilient to face tomorrow's challenges. This is a book about how to effectively deal with and use hardships, adversities, and even major traumatic events in a productive, positive manner, and over time bring about resilience, grit, and growth. Little time is spent on reviewing the science regarding if people can experience something positive after bad situations. The evidence shows they do. This phenomenon has been identified, researched, and accepted in spiritual practices, philosophies, historical and current events, books, films, and documentaries. Stop for a moment. Think about it. you most likely have already faced adversity, either minor or significant, and after a time used it as motivation to improve, learning a valuable lesson that helped you become stronger and more resilient. This response didn't occur in spite of the challenge, but as a direct result of it. You experienced what is called adaptive resilience, metahabilitation, and post-traumatic growth, PTG. These terms have been coined and studied for years by myself and Drs. Lawrence Calhoun, Richard Tedeschi, and Serge Campo. PTG has been recognized and described by Calhoun and Tedeschi as the potential for positive psychological, cognitive, and behavioral changes experienced in the aftermath of a traumatic event or a struggle with a major life crisis. Dr. Campo's work shows how habituation and learned stress responses, brought about by lesser or minor hardships, can engage your brain and emotional systems to support and foster resilience and adaptability, a mainstay of PTG. My work dovetails on both of these ideas. I describe the makeup of a survivor and detail a strengths-based rehabilitation model called metahabilitation, which guides and shows you how to move through troubling and traumatic events to build resilience and grit, and move forward, surviving, adapting, and eventually growing in the aftermath of challenges and traumas. First and foremost, this book emphasizes your strengths and capabilities for surviving trauma and mounting a positive, productive response in the aftermath. Next, it will help you recognize how you use challenges, as well as significant hardships, to become resilient and stronger, even if you were unaware of doing so. Finally, it will detail how survivors of significant traumatic events can and do move forward and, over time, experience PTG. Using stories and insights, up-to-date research, and behavioral science, this book reveals what motivated and supported people in their choice and mindset to move forward. The why. More importantly, neuroscience, neurobiology, genetics, and psychology will show you the how. Guidance and a specific strengths-based recovery system and model, metahabilitation, will reveal exactly how individuals who face such situations not only survive, but, with a sliver of hope, time, and great effort, thrive as a direct result of the event. Using those experiences, supported by science and research, you will learn and fully understand how to use your challenges and traumas to build resilience, grit, and growth. I'm writing as a researcher who studies trauma and what builds resilience and growth afterward, but I also have a deep personal connection to the subject matter. In 1990, after a sudden and unforeseen cardiac event, I died, and for over 20 minutes, doctors provided CPR, eventually returning me to life. I came back. I was alive. But I would come to find that this new life wasn't my life at all. As with other survivors, I faced depression, grief, fear, numerous unanswered questions, overwhelming personal and professional setbacks, and what seemed like insurmountable obstacles. It took time, stamina, and humility before I ultimately came to realize that this event was not an end point, but a beginning. It wasn't overnight. But over time, I recognized that taking control of my life started with making the critical choice to move forward. Once that choice was made, there was no turning back. My struggle wasn't something to get over, but something that fueled me. At every obstacle, failure, setback, and misstep, I constantly reminded myself, "You got this." I eventually accepted that this new life wasn't my old life, and if I pushed myself, I could make something even better. It was really up to me. I remembered making similar decisions in the past, and how I was able to effectively deal with and overcome minor troubling life challenges. But this situation was overwhelming, almost impossible. I suffered major assaults and disruptions to my physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual systems. Initially, I couldn't remember my husband and children, and I got confused in my own home and lost in my neighborhood. I was, using an unsophisticated medical term, a mess. Mixed up, angry, and scared, I had no idea what life was left for me. Frightened and unsure of my future, I was in a deep, dark void with little idea of how to crawl out. However, I was determined to do so. With time and great effort and support from friends and clinicians, I recognized very specific behaviors and mindsets that were needed to work through this situation. I surrendered. I asked for and accepted help. I continually focused on what I could do, taking as much control over my life as possible, adapting when I needed to, but also setting goals for my future. I eventually got some traction in my life and started moving forward. Later, with more time and effort, I found meaning in my pain, rebuilt a life, and found my purpose helping others find their courage, strength, and wisdom in the aftermath of crises. I created both a word and rehabilitation system, metahabilitation, to describe and guide others in their journey through the tough, frightening, and unsure times after trauma. The setup. This book is arranged using a foreword and an introduction, followed by 4 parts. The foreword by Dave McGilvray, director of the Boston Marathon, gives you an idea of how my work helped him during the traumatic and trying times involving the bombings at the 2013 marathon. The introduction provides an overview of concepts and goals and explains the 4 parts of this book. Part 1 begins with the necessity, the importance of this book, my unique capabilities and background to author this book, followed by my story, which explains how it all began with my story, my brush with death. Part 2 covers the supportive evidence, the foundational science and research, how and what goes into the makeup of a survivor, including psychology, genetics, epigenetics, post-traumatic growth, and the neuroscience of stress, resilience, happiness, and gratitude. Part 3 details the anatomy of a survivor, along with a virtual how-to. These chapters reveal how to use the strengths-based system, metahabilitation, to survive, adapt, and grow after trauma. Finally, Part 4 provides content on wellness and mindfulness strategies and a conclusion. It is good practice to be fully aware of what you are already doing to take care of yourself while understanding why these activities and mindsets are important and how they work. Also, I suggest a few new ones you might want to try. Through endurance, we conquer. Ernest H. Shackleton. From this book, I want you to recognize your resilience and strength. You are here. You are a survivor, and you are tough. You got this. Recognize your internal and external mechanisms and systems that respond and successfully deal with adversities, challenges, and traumas. Understand how life's challenges, struggles, and disappointments build resilience and support positive behaviors that encourage post-traumatic growth, PTG. Appreciate and use metahabilitation, a strengths-based recovery system to guide you and your family in managing and moving forward during and after both minor and major challenges and traumatic events. After this book, I hope you recognize, first in yourself, then in others, how tough and resilient you are. Know that your troubling, traumatic experiences have, over time, helped you become stronger and more resilient. You choose. You ultimately can and do make the choice regarding the direction you want to go, the path to take. Sometimes you can make it on your own, and sometimes you need extra help to move forward. I needed help and extra support. That assistance, guidance, and support reveals your thoughtful and pragmatic insight and strength. You got this. A reminder. I understand that listeners of this book are in unique and personal places as they hear about the challenges of traumatic experiences and what is involved in the healing journey. You may passionately agree with everything, question some of it, or disagree with parts. I suggest that it is useful and helpful to listen to it more than once, and at different times and transitions in your healing process. My purpose is to provide specific ideas and valuable information that resonates and supports your recovery and growth over time. Let me give you an example. Cassidy is a person I came to know after she read my first book and through our work together. In her early 30s, she suffered a stroke, causing her to lose movement on the left side of her body. She lives in Italy, but a friend of hers in the U.S. heard me speak, told Cassidy about my research, and sent her my first book, Turning Tragedy into Triumph. Cassidy later reached out to me and thanked me for the book and my research. We were able to meet in person a few years later, and she laughed as she shared with me that after initially reading that book, she became angry and threw it across the room, frustrated with what she read. However, several months later, she picked it up again, and at this time in her healing process, she was ready. She could not put it down. Now it made complete sense to her. She understood the process and recognized that my work, research, and the meta-habilitation recovery system helped unearth and supported her resilience, grit, and ultimate growth. Cassidy and I became friends. She invited me to Italy, and I stayed with her and her family when I presented my work and research at the very rehabilitation center she attended in the aftermath of her trauma. Take your time with this work. You will readily agree with some of it, and some of it may initially make you frustrated like Cassidy. But stay with it. The goal is to provide support and get you to think about and recognize how strong you are. Use insights from prior adversities and challenges and identify how they helped make you better. You have amazing systems that protect and allow you to effectively deal with future troubling and traumatic situations. I want this book to guide and inspire you. Trust yourself. Believe in yourself. You got this. See you on the other side. A few days before submitting this manuscript, my son Keenan called. I don't want to bother you, just checking in. How are you doing with the book? Great, I answered. Basically done. In the next 72 hours, I'm going to review it one more time, add the finishing touches, and get ready to send it in. We talked a little more about the content of the book, what I learned during this process, and how kind and helpful people were in providing guidance and support. Sounds good. I am proud of you. Keep it up and see you on the other side, he said. The next day when I was on my run, something I do before I write, I smiled and thought about that line, see you on the other side. I like it. That simple phrase actually says and means a lot to me. It references a journey. Planned, and sometimes unplanned, this saying indicates a before and after, the completion of a project, mission, or journey, and all the meaning, knowledge, wisdom, trials, and tribulations that are a part of that accomplishment, making it to the other side of a test or challenge. I feel like I have made it to a lot of other sides in my life. This book is definitely one of them. It may have taken a few months to write, but it is the culmination of a significant life event, over 2 decades of rigorous, intense reflection, thought, and research, years of experiences, insights, investigation, collaboration, learning new things, and hours of contemplation. An incredible amount of time and effort has gone into this work. Feeling a duty to learn, study, and bring forth significant information to help those who have suffered has been worth it. This book is the peak of a very important journey to get it right and get this information to you. You have systems in place that respond and support your survival, adaptation, and growth, allowing you to become better and stronger. The paradox is that much of the time, you don't actually recognize these abilities until you are tested and get to the other side. Enjoy the book. Listen carefully to the stories. Review the research. Pay attention to the observations, ideas, and suggestions regarding productive recovery and rehabilitation. Recognize what goes into the makeup of a survivor and what builds resilience and grit. Find out how to take your adversity and grow to become the master of your fate. You got this. See you on the other side of your journey. Part 1. Chapter 1. Why this book? Why me? Tough, traumatic times are a part of reality. But recently, our country and our world has been significantly affected by incredibly challenging times. We need this book. I can help. This book can help. I have dedicated over 2 decades of my life to the study of trauma, focusing on what brings forth a productive recovery. It is personal. I understand it, seeing firsthand how my trauma affected me and my family physically, socially, cognitively, and spiritually. I know the despair and depression that comes with life-altering events. I lived it. I get it. I appreciate the fear of having little to no control of one's life, and feeling completely frustrated by a lack of awareness and guidance toward a potentially positive outcome. Everything I experienced, the good and the bad, every mountain I climbed, informed me, shaped me, revealed to me, and taught me about myself, and what could be accomplished after trauma. My personal frustration fueled my clinical work and research, becoming my obsession. I needed to get answers and more clearly understand my situation to move forward and help others. As a healthcare professional, and in an effort to gain insight, understanding, and answers, I even returned to school and earned a master's degree and a doctorate degree, specifically studying challenges and traumatic events and, more importantly, what survivors can do, and what supports their ability to become more resilient and grow after trauma. For years, I have been absorbed in this topic, this aspect of the human experience, earning advanced degrees studying, researching, and writing books, articles, book chapters, and workbooks, addressing issues and aspects of trauma that influence and guide survivors toward post-traumatic growth. Endless hours were spent in contemplation and observation of survivors who had achieved growth after trauma. I created the term to describe the philosophy and developed a unique and specific system guiding one toward resilience and post-traumatic growth: metahabilitation. Doctoral research helped clarify it as a strengths-based system of recovery with stages that direct survivors toward adaptation, resilience, and post-traumatic growth. I received funding supporting my work and research from the National Institute of Health, NIH, California State University, Sacramento, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, NCAA, and presented my research findings and this system of recovery in several countries and throughout the U.S. I have addressed schools and educational administrators, healthcare professionals, clinicians and therapists, social workers, veterans, first responders, athletes, coaches, athletic directors, business executives, and multiple recovery and rehabilitation programs. I started a business, MetaHab, drjmf.com, and produce a podcast called Sliver of Hope, Stories of Survival and Growth, which specifically addresses the gap in recovery, provides a more optimistic viewpoint, and promotes the capacity of survivors to heal and grow after trauma. I have lectured at numerous universities, businesses, and conferences, and developed a college course called Traumatology, An Introduction to Post-Traumatic Growth, which profiles this philosophy and intervention. Over the years, through my work and ongoing research, I continually addressed all aspects of trauma, leaving no stone unturned, no aspect of recovery unaddressed. I have personally experienced all the ups and downs of trauma and its aftermath. This book provides that content, and is designed to help you, the survivor, find out how to move forward past all the darkness and despair into hope, resilience, and personal strength. Nobody explained any of this to me. I had to first discover it in myself, and that awareness and knowledge energized me. I couldn't stop. It has been a deep desire and duty to share all I experienced, researched, and learned. My colleague, Dr. Bridget Parsh, continually and supportively reminds me, this isn't about you. You found out very important information regarding how to deal with trauma. You have to share it. She is right. My mission is clear. Help survivors by sharing my research and that of others, showing mechanisms and specific guidance on how to use hardships and challenges to build resilience, grit, and growth after trauma, and to instill hope in those who encounter and have suffered from life-altering events. I have done the work. Let me save you time, energy, and unnecessary anxiety by providing this research, giving specific directions, and letting you know that there is a way up and a way out, and that the capacity and power to achieve this is already in you. You got this. Chapter 2. My Story. On July 22, 1990, my heart stopped beating, and for more than 20 minutes I was dead. My life didn't flash before my eyes until much later, when I was facing the loss of myself, even in survival. The more I struggled to recover from the trauma in every layer of my being, the more humble and open I became, and one ordinary memory pushed its way to the front. I was back in my 8th grade classroom, absorbing the challenge laid down by Sister Grace Marie. Students, it is better to aim for the sky and hit the fence than it is to aim for the fence and hit the ground. Wise as it is obvious, it needs saying because sometimes we can't see the sky. Seeds of Survival. My father wasn't there to see my body shudder and sink to the bottom of a pool. A bit of mercy, considering he watched his brother drown. They were just boys playing in the shallows of Lake Michigan. As his younger sibling paddled farther and farther out, Dad begged him to come back. He was already swimming toward him when he saw the current pull his brother down. Right there, and still too late. He suffered silently with this memory throughout his life, but most acutely as he grew up feeling his parents' blame. They weren't particularly loving or kind, and I think it sowed the opposite emotions in my father. His name was Jude. He was manifestly tough, a Navy man who served in the Korean War and dug deep to give his wife and 6 children a good life. He didn't lie or suffer fools. He was absolutely authentic in a way that could be withering. But he was just as fierce in showing his love for us and his constant support and pride in our efforts. We could see his devotion to my mother, Mary Joyce, the backbone of the family. She never complained about how tough we had it financially. She just got to work doing what was needed with a grace about her and an intensely determined inner strength. She was unfailingly positive, pleasant, and funny. As children, we joked about Mom making powdered milk and slicing the cheese and turkey so thin for our sandwiches that all we tasted was bread. She knew how to stretch what we had, and she did it with contagious good humor. Every week, we loaded into our Volkswagen bus with a bag of those sandwiches, homemade cookies, a jug of lemonade, and just enough money for all 6 of us to get an ice cream. Fun was part of our family's foundation, along with education and a commitment to each other and our Catholic faith. No family is perfect, but we had more good times than bad, and knew we were loved and safe. My parents worked hard for each of us, clearly making sacrifices to give their children all they could. The second born and the oldest girl, I stepped in a lot to help my mother. I knew how hard it was for her, so I never felt put upon. However, a great deal was
Sample complete. Ready to continue?